Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome back to the Business of Apparel podcast. Today is going to be interesting, my friend, because I'm in a bit of a cranky mood. I'm having a tough day, and I'm putting myself on camera anyway. I am going to record this episode because it's due today. And I think I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit through some of the frustration that I know a lot of us are feeling. I know I'm not the only one in this boat who is having a difficult January of 2025, who's been maybe seeing a little bit of a difficult February in 2025, who had a really hard 2024, who struggled in 2023, kind of just got blown away by the pandemic between 2020 and 2022. I don't know. There are just some days where it feels like there's a lot that has been happening over the last 5 years that is just hard to continue dealing with every single day. And so today I guess I feel like I'm going to rant a little bit. If you're in for that and you just kind of want to have someone who you can get in the trenches with for a minute, please keep listening. If you are not on this vibe, if you are in like a totally great mood today and you've got all the positivity in the world, I don't want to bring you down. So I'll say maybe save this episode for a later time. I know how important it is to protect your positivity and your optimism. There are days when I'm in a really good mood. My optimism is sky high. I know that things are going to work out. Like, I feel really good about every single step that we're taking to grow the business or find great new clients that we love to work with. And if I get into a room with a friend or a family member who's going to bring me down because maybe they had a bad day and they just want to bitch about it, like, I know how that can affect my own mood. So again, if this is not the right time for you to be listening to this type of episode, don't feel bad at all. I would say definitely go ahead and turn this off. Come back to it at a time when maybe you need a little bit of, misery loves company. I'm not saying I'm in misery, but sometimes it's just easier to, hash it out with someone or hear that you're not alone if you're feeling like it's a hard day. Or if you've been feeling like things aren't quite working for you the way that you want them to, or God damn it, this economy is not turning around fast enough. Like, what the fuck do we need to do to get to a point where we're back on our feet, where we feel like the efforts that we're making every single day are finally leading to results again? Like, I think everybody has been in a really tough time recently. As we've been talking to our longstanding clients, our new clients, everybody's trying to pivot constantly. It's exhausting. And so on that day when you feel like you need to just kind of be here with me in this mood and know that you're not alone in feeling that way, please come back. Now, for those of you who are sticking with me, I just kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on. Number one, despite my mood, I want to express gratitude for the fact that I do have an amazing team who is doing everything that they can right alongside me to make sure that we're hitting our goals every day. We're doing the work every day. And I am incredibly lucky to have a team who is doing that. I have worked hard to hire people who are going to be just as reliable as me, if not more reliable. And so that speaks volumes, I think, to their character, who they are, how they feel about working for me and the company, that they continue to do what they're doing despite the fact that we've had a tough couple of years here at Unmarked Street. Now, I also want to say that what I'm defining as tough or not quite hitting the mark or not quite reaching our goals is something that another company might love to see on their books at the end of a month or at the end of a year. We continue to work toward profitability. We continue to work toward the kind of budget and the kind of pay for our employees that we want to really be able to achieve. And so in my mind, we're not hitting all of those marks quite yet. And so while I've set big goals for our company, and I know that we have the ability to do so much more and to help so many more people, we're really struggling to reach the right people and we're trying a lot of different things. We're in the middle of testing. And I think that's what leads me to a lot of frustration, right? Like when you're in a growth period and you're grinding every day, and like I haven't taken a day off in a while. So that's probably also leading to my crankiness. Like I've been working long hours on the weekends. I've been working long hours at nights. We're trying to figure out what our backend systems are, right? Like I talk about this all the time for you. You need to set up your standard operating procedures so that you can start to figure out how to function every day in a way that is easy, it flows, it makes sense. We're working on building those processes and those standards for our company right now, and it's not easy. I've never claimed for it to be easy. Now, I can help you put standard operating procedures in place for your apparel business that will help you do things great for your apparel business. What I'm looking for and what I'm not quite finding right now actually is a lot of good information on how to do that for the type of agency company that I am. So for Unmarked Street to be essentially a high-end luxury done for you agency for apparel brands. So that's apparel brands who are already established, usually already making 7 figures or more. That's kind of where we fit in really well because our services come at such a high value that they are not cheap. And so if you're making less than 7 figures a year, we tend to find that you can come in at lower price packages, but we're not able to service you completely. Like we can't give away our time. And so we're struggling to find the right brands. And we're up against a lot of different hurdles right now where over the last 2 years in 2023 and 24, we've seen a massive amount of small brands and mid-level apparel brands have to shut their doors because we've been watching the economy falter. We've been watching inflation get higher. And so the types of brands that we work with that make high quality, usually sustainable apparel lines are going out of business. And it's because a lot of times the consumer is looking for a cheaper option. And so instead of going to the brands that we would typically work with, they're going to fast fashion alternatives or they're going to a more cost-effective alternative because they're struggling, right? Their wallets are tight. They're like all of us, I think, when we go to the grocery store anymore, like I actually know what the price of eggs is right now. Like the fact that I know that means that it's very different from what my life was 5 years ago when I would just go grocery shopping and maybe didn't have to look at the prices so closely. I would just get what I needed to get. And so now things are different even for me, who feels like I'm in a very comfortable place, but that means that we can't necessarily expect our ideal customers to come spend a lot of money to buy the apparel that's being made at mid-level companies or startup companies that are making stuff that isn't cheap. Right. So if you're making high quality, like really nice fabrics, really good fitting apparel that is sustainably made, it's ethically made, it's not going to be cheap. And so we're seeing a decline in customer base, which means we're seeing a decline in sales, which means we're seeing a decline in bottom line revenue at the end of the year for those brands. And so they're either having to lay off teams, no longer buy inventory, or they're in a position where they have to shut their doors. And so because a lot of these brands that are ideal for us are actually shutting their doors, we're struggling to find new clients to help. At the same time, big corporations, now we could go knocking on their doors and say, hey, hire us as extra helping hands. We're experts in these areas. Why don't you bring us in? But these brands are also continuing to go through layoff cycles. So instead of bringing in extra help or opening up headcount or saying, hey, we actually have a few dollars to throw at this and to bring in an expert, they're actually tightening all of their budgets as well to the point where they're not even considering what it would look like to bring in contractors or agencies. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, I've been getting a lot of work, like amazing, good for you. But there are a lot of us out here who have seen the opposite. And I will absolutely attribute a lot of this to me. Like I am learning every single day still about marketing and sales and what it is that you are looking for so that I can make sure that I'm serving you as best as possible with what I'm teaching you on the podcast, what I'm offering you in the way of resources, what I'm talking about on social media, what I'm putting out as tools that you could purchase from us, or with what our online course looks like. Like there are so many different elements to what I still need to learn and understand. And so, as much as I feel like I'm in a much better place than I was 3 years ago when I started my business and I had no idea about any of these concepts, I will say that because I continue to learn and because these aren't my areas of expertise, it creates frustration a lot. And it creates a slowdown on our company a lot, because for me to be the leader who doesn't know how these things should work is really tough. Just like I'm talking about these brands who aren't looking for us to come in as consultants or as contractors to actually do work for them, I'm in the same boat as a business owner. Like, I'm struggling through sales and marketing right now because I'm trying to do it myself, because we're not making the type of revenue that allows me to hire someone who is an expert. And so I totally 100% feel these brands who, when we talk to them, they're like, look, I can't afford this right now. I'd love to be able to hire you someday, but it's just not in my books at the moment. Like, there's literally nothing that I can say to that, because I 100% understand that. Like, I've had different marketing people on our books over the years. A lot of them have been really great. Ella, we miss you. If you're listening, we really miss all of the work that you were doing. You were really accomplishing a lot for us, but we're so proud of you and what you're out there doing now in going to grad school and all of that. So we want our team members to have better opportunities and let them go do what they need to do. We've also had to let some people go because they weren't doing a great job, but that leads me to a place where I now know I'm the person in the market who knows that I need a marketing expert, someone who knows strategy, someone who knows the fashion industry, someone who knows the agency industry, someone who knows online courses. Like, those are the types of things that I need someone else to be an expert in marketing and selling to come onto my team to not just teach me, but give us all goals and tasks to be doing every day. Are you sick of being stuck on the sidelines of the apparel industry and you just want to be put in the game? Then join our 100% free workshop, Secrets Behind Billion-Dollar Apparel Brands, and learn the strategies, tactics, and secrets used by the most successful companies in the world. We'll cover everything from setting your brand standards to big brand line planning and executive level processes. In this workshop, you're going to learn how to name your target customer, rationalize your line, calculate product margins, roll up your revenue, and see potential profits while figuring out how to build a unique calendar for your brand. You're going to learn that and so much more. Are you ready to take your apparel business to the next level? Sign up today and use code PODCAST for a 10% discount on the full Business of Apparel online course or any of our mini courses after the workshop. Visit www.thebusinessofapparel.com/secrets to register. Don't miss out. So again, this just leads me kind of down this spiral sometimes of frustration where it's this endless loop. And I know that a lot of other brands are feeling it too. Like, you want to be able to hire the help. And trust me, I'm the first person to give out advice on hire sooner than you need. But I've also gotten myself into trouble where I hire that person, and then after a while, it doesn't actually reap the kind of rewards that I need it to. And I've lost money on it and I can't keep them on staff. And so it ends up being a bad situation, not just for me, but also for them, because I've brought them on in a capacity where they were relying on me to be able to keep them on staff, and it didn't last. And they could have maybe gone out and got a more reliable, well-paying, like long-term role instead of coming to me. And that weighs on me as a leader. Like, that absolutely weighs on me as a CEO of a company that we've brought people in that I wasn't able to keep long-term because we, on some other level, weren't able to bring in the kind of revenue that we needed. And so when we continue to go through these cycles, and there are memes about it all over the place, right? Like, people can create these reels and these memes and these jokes that, like, business owners go through this roller coaster of a cycle all the time. And we have all of these different emotions, even on a single day. Like, we're super psyched that we closed a contract, and then we're super depressed because we lost a contract. And then we're super psyched that maybe we got someone to buy our online course, and then we're super depressed because we had to let somebody go. And it's always up and down. It's like constant. And so there are definitely days where I struggle with that. And I always try to put, I think, a really brave face out to the world. And when we're recording videos or we've got reels going, or even for this podcast, or when we do Money Mondays on LinkedIn, like all of that, I think comes from being in a positive headspace. And so I don't really record or put any of that out unless I'm in the right headspace to be able to get it on camera in what I believe is the right way. Because having hope and having optimism and having a positive mindset is required to be successful. If you are constantly going to be pessimistic, essentially what you think is what's going to come true, right? Like what you think is what happens. You think more about the red station, that wagon that you really, really don't want, and then it ends up being the only car on the lot that you can afford. Like there are a lot of different things that require you to have mental toughness. And I want to be able to portray that for you and for our community whenever I do get on camera. But then there are moments like right now, and there are days like today when we have certain things happen that really put me in a funk. So like today, what's got me in a funk? One of the first things that happened this morning, I reached out to a really old friend just to kind of see how she was doing. She has recently started like a very different endeavor, got herself out of the fashion world, and she and I used to be really close. And there have been some instances between us that have happened over the last couple of years that were a little wonky and questionable, to the point where I was confused about why she was trying to convince me not to take certain contracts, or trying to convince me that I wouldn't enjoy a certain client or working with a certain client. It kind of started to become apparent that she saw me as competition, and it became a little bit toxic, to the point where we stopped talking for a while. And so I reached out to her over the weekend to just say, hey, I'm really proud of you for starting this new endeavor. How are things going? And she had like this snarky little remark that came back. And so that put me in a little bit of a funk. And then we're going through this a little bit of an experiment where we're actually having our sales process fully evaluated by someone that we trust in the industry. And we had one of our follow-up meetings today where we were kind of supposed to be like pretending that we were on a client call, because that's kind of how this whole thing is set up. Like we're mimicking what we would do if we were essentially selling to a new client so that she can evaluate our process. And it was just so hard to read her, to the point where it felt very clear to me that, I don't know, we were doing something wrong, but she wasn't, or she couldn't, I don't know, share what she was feeling or what she was thinking or the information. It's also kind of got me in a funk, because the way that this is mapped out is that we're actually not going to know what her feedback is until she shares it publicly with the world. And so I've got myself a little bit nervous about what that could be. And then on top of that, I'm working with a group right now who I have found is a little bit lesser than where I need to be in my learning space. So I'm like, I'm constantly always trying to learn from people. I am constantly always trying to be in community. Like I think that's really, really important. So that's why I actually offer it to you, because I know how important it can be to be a part of communities where you learn the specific things that you need to learn. But the group that I'm in right now is not quite right for me. I dove in probably a little bit too fast to this. I'm not learning what I felt like I needed to learn. And at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like I'm actually coaching more than I'm learning in this group. And I'm actually paying to be in this group. And I mean, it was a one-time payment up front, so it's not like I'm continuing to pay. Otherwise, I would just bow out. But it gets me a little bit frustrated that I paid for this thing and they're actually getting more value out of me in these calls than from the coach or from each other. And so there's a little bit of frustration that sets in there too. Like you spend your money when you don't have a lot of it on something that you think is going to be valuable, and it doesn't turn out to be so. And so I understand if that's been something on your mind, like if we've been putting out this offer to you to join the course or come to a workshop or be a part of our community, and you're skeptical over whether or not it's actually going to be of value to you, I totally get that, because I'm in the same boat a lot of the time too. I'm trying to jump into different things and learn different tasks and learn different ways of doing stuff so that we can grow our business and eventually kind of get out of our little plateau. But I've been burned by this. And this isn't the first time that I've been burned by this. And so it deteriorates trust. And I think for me, for someone who holds honesty and love and truth like is such high values in my personal values assessments. When I feel like I'm losing trust with people, or when I feel like relationships are getting broken down, or when I feel like I can't read what people are saying, or people aren't sharing information with me, I get into a really weird frustrated funk. And so I think that's what's kind of led me to today, to this episode. This is now what we plan to record this episode. Maybe we'll do what we planned next week. But I just want you to know that whatever you're feeling about your business, or whatever you're feeling about your career right now, or again, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while and you feel frustrated that we have an ad in here about our course or coming to our workshop, like, I want you to know that that's okay. And we all feel that right now. There is a serious lack of trust. There is a huge trust deficit going on right now, especially in the online space. And I think it's leading to a lot of the mental health issues and the depression that's happening across many different generations, but mostly in Gen Z, when we read about them being in the online space more than I think the rest of us. And so I don't know if I can convince you today that you can trust me, and that if you ever decide to come join something that we're doing, I understand that that is an issue, and I would never do anything to break that trust. And if I ever do, I want you to be honest with me and telling me that. But I also really want to encourage you to go seek out like real life community. And sometimes that community is still in an online space, but it's not isolated. It's not isolated to a point where I'm scrolling through some sort of social media platform, having my own thoughts about what I think I'm seeing. I'm actually having discussion. I'm having conversations with other people who are in the same space as me. I'm learning from other people. I'm experiencing their hardship, so that I can maybe see that either, again, I'm in the same place and I can relate to that, or maybe on some days it also helps me feel really good about how far I've come, and I can then help those people. Those are the kinds of things that are available to you too. If you seek out community and you really go find like-minded people who can and will absolutely support you. This is absolutely not a pitch. I'm not trying to do that. I just want you to know that frustration about a lot of these things is very, very normal. And you and me, we are not alone in feeling this. I feel like the sentiment across the board is, let's put forward like a really brave face and keep a positive mindset, because we know we have to have that to eventually gain success and gain growth. But let's also be realistic in the fact that it's okay to sometimes be frustrated, or not have a day where everything goes your way, or not understand why other people do things. And I think to kind of close out, if you haven't picked it up yet, Mel Robbins just recently wrote the book called Let Them. I love this principle that regardless of how it makes you feel, because you are still allowed to feel how you feel if someone brushes you off, or if someone ghosts you, or if someone tries to take work away from you, or if someone is being really cagey and isn't going to actually share how they're feeling about something. You're allowed to just let them. You're allowed to let them be cagey. You're allowed to let them ghost you, and it shouldn't affect your day as much. So I am going to try to take that advice myself here a little bit. I am going to let all those people be in their own space, and I am going to try to have a little bit of a better afternoon after this. I'm going to go for a little walk outside, get myself some sunshine, maybe have a little dance party in the office. That always helps me a little bit. So I don't know if this helped you at all. If it did, thanks so much for listening. And thanks for being my community, because this is incredibly, incredibly important to me. I hope that we are offering value to you in some way, and I hope that we are offering you something unique. And if not, I want you to go ahead and just reach out to me and let me know what you would prefer that we be doing here at the Business of Apparel and at Unmarked Street, because we would love to learn. It's something that we are constantly trying to get a better grasp on. So the more we can talk to you, the more that you can engage with us. If you have a comment, put it down. We've had some nasty comments put on this podcast before. We've had some really rude comments. The really, really bad ones, I'm not going to lie, we delete, because I don't need that in my life. But the other ones that are like kind of snarky, like I'm happy to reply to those and ask more questions. I want to learn about why you didn't enjoy this episode, or tell me more about why you think this was a bad topic to discuss. I am so intrigued by all of this. So please don't hesitate to ever comment on anything that we're doing. Please reach out. If you did like this episode, please leave us a review. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, you can always find us at thebusinessofapparel.com. And you can come join us every single Friday this year in our free workshop, which is getting really good reviews, actually, now that we've changed it up a little bit. You can go to thebusinessofapparel.com/secrets. We hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to go try to improve mine. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, thebusinessofapparel.com, where I do weekly trainings through my YouTube video channel, a weekly newsletter, blog articles, and so many more resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand. This podcast is produced by Box 7 Media, who I cannot speak highly enough of. If you're looking to start your own podcast, you can reach out to Jeremy at Box 7 Media on LinkedIn anytime.